Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 100-Year Real Estate Investor. We're your hosts, Jake and Gino, and this is the show dedicated to your long-term financial engineering. Gino, how's it going?
Doing great, Jake. How you doing?
Always making it happen. Our guest today is a lifelong entrepreneur, international #1 best-selling author, and popular TEDx speaker. He is also the author of 4 books on 100-year thinking. In his 58 years, he founded 20 companies. He's taken 9 investment companies public, led 17 corporate turnarounds, and completed capital raises for dozens of companies through his holding company, Mutual Capital Alliance, which he's led as the founder and CEO for more than 27 years. So without further ado, Rick, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Mr. Sapio, we want to dive into this long-term thinking. Was there a point in your life or an inflection point when you realized that thinking for the long term and planning for the long term was going to serve you best?
I had, my dad died when I was 13, and I had this obsession with having mentors, which led me, as I got older to interview people. And I ultimately interviewed 44 billionaires, not just interviewed, I spent a ton of time with them. That's another podcast, I'm sure. But what I noticed when I was around really successful people, they were very long-term oriented. And that was a massive aha for me. And it seems like we're uber focused on short term, like just nonsensical things on our cell phones, which, it's the absolute antithesis of long-term thinking. I believe if you have a long-term focus in life, it informs what you do today. So if you want to live to be 120, you're not going to eat candy bars all day. If you want to have a long-term marriage, you're not going to cheat on your spouse. But the big aha for me was nobody in my family lived past the age of 50, no male, that is. And I got married really late in life. And so I just decided when my wife got pregnant, holy cow, what if I don't make it? Let's have a long-term view of our marriage and our family. So my wife and I came up with something called the family placemat, which is right here. And it's been permanent in our family. It's a 100-year vision of our family with our values, our family crest, our family meeting rhythms, and all of that. But it's permanent. And I noticed that permanent things, like think about the Bible, think about companies that have been around a long time, permanent things force you to be long-term oriented and force you to not focus on the short term. So that's kind of a synopsis of how this all evolved.
Rick, this may be a difficult question to answer, but anyone listening to this, how do you start thinking long term? I mean, you had that aha moment. For anybody listening, what do they need to do to start having that long term mindset?
This is a big thing. I do a lot of prayer and meditation personally, and I
Mhm.
think that people have a hard time with what I'm about to say. You have to trust the universe. If you have a purpose in life, and everybody has a purpose, you just have to name it. Mine is to inspire entrepreneurship and others. But if you have a purpose, you have to trust that that purpose is going to carry you. But unfortunately, too many of us have this FOMO mentality, fear of missing out. We can't miss a TV show. We can't miss, a social media post. We can't miss a text. We can't miss a voicemail. And that is absolute nonsense. And all that's doing is destroying people, which
Mhm.
is why in our culture we take 7 billion pills a month for mental disorders, which is absolutely insane. Don't get me started on that.
So, Rick, give me some of the characteristics of the 100-year mindset. What is a person looking for when they want to adopt this type of mindset?
The biggest thing that I would say to that question is you have to know what your priorities are in life. I've asked thousands of people, what are your priorities? And everybody gives me the same answer: God first, family second, health and fitness third. And they're absolutely full of crap. Here's why. If I was sitting next to you, Gino, or you, Jake, with a video camera, and I just had the video camera on you at 5 a.m., and I watched when you woke up and I followed you around all day long. And think about this, listeners. If I followed you around from the minute you woke up in the morning to the minute you went to bed at night, what percent of your day would be focused on your priorities? Average person, I would say 5%. That's it. So they say they're committed to God first and family second and health and fitness third and their career fourth or whatever the hell they say. But they're playing golf, they're going to the bar, they're watching pornography, they're playing video games, they're doing all this other stuff. And then they wonder why life isn't working out. So first thing, if you want to be a long-term thinker, you have to get crystal clear on your priorities. Number one, and nobody can have more than 5 priorities. And for me, we have one of my priorities is my spouse, and I'm here in my office in downtown Dallas, where I've been for 28 years in the same office. And my wife and I have a business meeting once a week for 1 hour. And we look at the family placemat. We really did. That happened about 2 hours ago. And one of the things we said is, we have to refocus on our priorities. So that's number one. What's your purpose? If you guys haven't done the work to figure out a 4, 5, 6, 7 word purpose statement, which is already in your heart, it's already part of your DNA. You got to do the work. So those two things, okay, those are the bookends: your priorities, your purpose, because this is really long term. And then you've got to have a list of values from which to make decisions. I think the number one cause of dissatisfaction in life, which leads to mental issues, which leads to all kinds of crap, like the overwhelming incidence of suicide, is that people don't know their purpose statement. They don't know their values, even though they're part of them, just haven't listed it out. They don't know their priorities. So if you do those 3 things, so the values are in the middle. The priorities are kind of the short term. Today, what are my priorities? Your purpose is long term. Where am I going? And your values are what takes you there. Uh, I believe that every issue that I have ever had in my life, every issue that you've ever had, if you're watching me on video, starts when you bring someone or something into your life that is not aligned with your values. Every lawsuit I've been in, every bad relationship, every time I had to fire someone, every time I had to unwind something that was terrible, was because I let someone or something into my life that didn't align with my values. So you just got 48 modules of business finishing school and all the other stuff that I've done in my life in about 2 minutes. But that's how you develop a long-term mindset.
Rick had shared with me this phrase, and it really hit me hard, everybody. Values-based decision making. It really hit me hard about a year ago. I got into a relationship with a couple of guys in real estate, and the relationship wasn't going great. And I checked my values, and I'm like, I don't need to be in this relationship anymore. So that is so powerful. Everything he said so far, the priorities, the sole purpose, the values, you really need to work on that before you actually launch anything. I love that you said that. It's important. Give me your 3 values. We discussed simplicity, probability, and leverage. Those are huge. They're amazing, and they'll really help the listeners out.
Yeah, so I've got a list of 11, but let's just talk about 3. And my number one value is just who I am. It's how I'm able to have 4 young kids, live my life, have a business. Simplicity. Everybody listening has one primary value. It makes every decision for you. If you don't know what that primary value is and you're not propagating it in your life, then you're probably not satisfied. So for me, it's simplicity. And why is it simplicity? Because I couldn't have 4 kids and multiple businesses and the travel schedule I have if I didn't cherish simplicity. And how does simplicity show up for me in my life and in my family? Number one, it shows up on a lot of rhythmic scheduled calls. So a lot of weeks look the same. Number two, it shows up as dinner with my family 5 nights a week. It shows up as me and my wife not missing a Monday night date night in 15 years. Just that simple rhythm, so my kids know, the babysitter knows, the employees know, everybody knows Monday night, date night. Um, so that's number one, simplicity. I think everybody should have simplicity on their list of values. It may not be your number one. Number two, probability. Probability is massive. I don't make decisions unless I have a high probability of hitting the stated objective. And I see this all the time with people. They make low probability decisions and they wonder why their business isn't working or their life isn't working. An example of that is we have 4 kids. They're 7, 9, 11, and 13. And I pounded into their head that when you're 18, you're on your own. That means you have to make your own money, buy your own car, pay for anything you want. So when my 13-year-old says, Dad, I want a cell phone, I said, great. In our house, there are no cell phones. So if you want a cell phone, you're gonna have to pay rent in another house and pay for the cell phone. So he's like, well, how do I get a cell phone like my friends? I go, well, you don't. So move. But the reason I'm that strict is because we're developing them into being entrepreneurs. I want them focused on businesses. My 11-year-old has a business, my 13-year-old has a business. And since the day they could count money, we've had a chore chart. If you come to my house, you'll see it, where they sign their name every day and how much they earn because they get to pick from a list of chores. And they get about 25 bucks a week, and they've been getting it
Hmm.
since they were 3. And the money goes into a bank, and they can see their money grow, and then the money goes into an investment account. Then we set up a business uh, for them that they paid for. And so my point in all that is, we want to increase the probability that we have independent entrepreneurial 18-year-olds. And that's how my wife and I make decisions. The same thing can be said in business. So many businesses try all this crap, but not the things that will increase the probability of them hitting their stated objective, which should be to build a long term oriented, sustainable, growing, profitable company that ultimately is saleable, because that's when you get the big check. The last thing is leverage. Every decision you make, I believe, and this goes along with simplicity, should be leveraging an existing relationship, existing technology, existing infrastructure, existing investment. This relationship with you guys, Jake and Gino, was me leveraging our existing infrastructure. And you could see we kind of started the 100-year real estate investor leveraging what? Your business, my business, our know how, our IP. That's what it's all about. We didn't start a cooking show, although that would leverage your background, Gino, but you wouldn't want me to be on your
He
cooking
can do it
show.
all, Rick. He can do it all.
I wish, my friend.
But you see my point. Simplicity,
Yes.
Yeah.
probability, and leverage. It drives people nuts. They say, "You say that every day." I go, "Yeah. Why would I change?" I met Herb Kelleher, and he said my biggest problem in growing Southwest Airlines is every single day, 1,000 times, I had to say, one plane, point to point, no assigned seats, blah blah blah, and everybody want to change it. But that's what made us the fastest growing airline in history.
So,
I love
Rick,
that.
it's really about the shiny object syndrome, right? Jake and I talk about it all the time. Pick a lane, stay in it, use that 100-year mindset, and continue to focus on that, correct? It's about simplicity, like you said, probability and leverage. I love that. When we discuss the dual asset strategy, isn't that the ideal scenario for the 100-year real estate investor for that mindset?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I came across this product in 2001 that now I'm full force behind. I have 11 policies. And what happened, it was a meeting with my financial planner when I bought my first policy in 2006. It took me like 5 years because, you know, it's such an easy thing now, 15 or 16 years later, but at the time it just seemed complicated.
What was holding you
But
back? Let's really discuss that just for 30 seconds. What was holding you back from pulling the trigger? Now, all of a sudden, you've got 11 policies. You went from 0 to 11. What was that light bulb, that moment that said, "Oh, this is just too good"?
it was the dual asset strategy. So here's what happened. I was about to buy a private investment into a private company. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to take money out of my bank account and I'm going to invest 250,000 in this private company. And then it occurred to me, because my salesperson was calling me on the product, I thought, wait a minute, if I put that 250,000 into this private company, or later it was real estate investments, but the initial one was a private company. Uh, what I should do with that 250,000 is first put it into an insurance policy. Now I got my life insurance set. That insurance policy is going to grow at 4 or 5% a year, and I could borrow against the same monies, borrow against it, and buy the private placement. But just think about it in terms of a piece of real estate. So now uh, I have two assets. So when you consider your financial well-being, when you consider, how do you look to a bank as an example? Do you look better with one asset, or do you look better with two assets? I would much rather back a human being that's got 250,000 in a whole life insurance policy that's been there for a couple of years, and 250,000 in a piece of real estate, than I would somebody that just own real estate. It makes obvious sense. And here's the cool thing: when you borrow against your own policy, the policy continues to grow as if the money's in there,
Mhm.
which is like a foreign concept to people. Yes, you have to pay interest on the loan, but the interest on the loan is very low relative to normal interest rates. So it's almost like you get two assets for the price of one, and that's
But
what we
that's why
call
you
the
buy a
dual.
cash flowing asset, though, so it pays back the interest. So and then once that's done, you're left with two free and clear, and you can cycle the same process. That's what's
100%.
that's I don't know. You guys get me fired up here. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Jake. Tell us more, because I think,
Here's the bottom line, gang, and this is all I'm saying is that you get a policy, you're protecting your family, you're doing the right thing for the long term, and you're buying it. You're not renting the policy like term and it's going to expire. So you're getting a fixed asset over here, then you're buying a long-term fixed asset like we do in cash flowing multifamily real estate. Over say a 5-10 year period, that cash flowing real estate is going to pay back that loan. Now you're left with two assets independent of each other, and you can do the same process over and over again using it like that. And for me, it's huge because look, I'm thinking long term. I'm setting up trusts. I'm doing things for my family for the long term. And this gives me an opportunity to really plan. And we know there's tax, things coming down the line there where, look, they may be doing away with the step up in basis. They may be doing away with the 1031 exchange. Capital gains may be going to 40%. Not to get political here, but that's going to be an assault on generational wealth. So this is a perfect opportunity to utilize a dual asset strategy to protect your family for the long term. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, frankly. So
And I like that, Rick. It's all about that long-term mindset. For those of us that are listening on the show, we have a lot of Jake and Gino community members, and anyone new listening to this is going to resonate with you, because if you're thinking about the long term, this is the ideal strategy for you. It's not a get rich quick strategy, right, Rick? This is going to take some time to develop, correct?
Yeah, and to something Jake said, I just want if you understand insurance, and a lot of people don't, and you understand that the best insurance is insurance purchased from a mutually owned insurance company, which is
Yes.
very rare, and you get, because it's mutually owned, when you buy that policy, you're a shareholder of the company, so you get dividends. And the companies that we use for this product have been paying dividends every year without ever missing one time for over 100 years, which lines up perfectly with the 100-year mindset, the 100-year investor, the 100-year real estate investor. Think about this, guys. When you have issues financially, I think it comes to instead of your money growing every single quarter, every single year, you have a setback. 1 year you're down, 1 year you lose. That is what destroys generational wealth. But when you have these policies, um, they never go backwards. And this is through two world wars. This is through pandemics, now two, one in the 1918 and now this one. This is through catastrophic historical events, never missing a dividend ever. So you got to know what you're buying. And sadly, unfortunately, in the world of insurance, there's a lot of scammers, a lot of people that are out for the commissions. They're really not out to have you be a 100-year thinker. They're really not out to show you how to have a dual asset. They're really not out to show you how to maximize your estate and minimize your taxes. And that's why we got together, because we're all investors. We're all long-term thinkers. When I say all of us, the founders, the four founders of the 100-year real estate investor, we're of like mind. We want to show people the best way to create long-term generational wealth with minimum risk, maximum return, and simplicity, probability, and leverage.
Rick, thank you so much for stopping on today. We appreciate the values-based decision making.
Mhm.
We appreciate the long-term thinking that we know everybody in this community shares. Gang, if you want to find out more, click the link down below to schedule a call with our team, or go to 100yearrei.com. That's www.100yearrei.com. Guys, thank you so much.